Good morning, Rebecca, and thanks so much for joining us on our second episode of Café Tapestry. We're so happy to have you with us.
It's great to see you, Stephanie, and it's nice and early here in the morning, so I have my cup of Tapestry Cafe coffee with me here in snowy
Great,
Toronto.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. Well, let's launch right into it because we've got a lot to talk about today, and we wanted to just learn more about what you've done as a board member with TREC and what's really exciting you about the work that you're doing right now. So I guess the first thing we're curious to know is how you became involved with the board to begin with.
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's been a really great journey with TREC, and it actually kicked off quite some time ago. I was doing a master's program at York University in environmental studies, and I was looking for a major research project. And through a fortuitous connection, I found out that TREC was looking for someone to do research on how to engage communities in order to market investment in community projects. And that was something I was very interested in because they were specifically focused on renewable energy projects. And that was something that I had been studying at school. So that's how the door opened to me for TREC, was through that research project. And coincidentally, I've just completed, many years later, another research project with TREC for a different master's program called Strategic Foresight at OCADU. So kind of come full circle on that.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting. I just want to build it out a little bit because I think the idea that doing these research projects and that being an introduction to the organization and to the culture really is a great illustration of the sort of dynamic and innovative nature at TREC, that they're always interested in new ways of thinking and doing and creating value at the community level. And not only just interested, they're interested in supporting people that are also in this work. So they're curious about new ways of doing things and willing to try them. And that sense of a can-do attitude, really, that's the tone at TREC. There's a, we can do this. And so over the course of the time that I've been with TREC, we have incubated and innovated a number of really cool projects, including renewable energy co-ops, an education charity, and then most recently, as you know, the Tapestry Community Capital Project.
Wonderful. And maybe you can share with us a little bit about your role on the board and what background you come from and how that's helped TREC to grow.
Sure. So I'm a director on the board, and I'm also co-chairing a new committee. There's a number of different committees on the board. So we've just struck a new committee called Future TREC, and it actually builds on the research project I just mentioned, where members of the TREC community are using a process called Strategic Foresight to explore new opportunities to create value at the community level. So that's my role on the board. And my background is actually pretty diverse. My first act, if you will, as a professional was working for record labels. I worked in the music industry and I did marketing and business development. And that was really great. Yeah, really a fun, dynamic way to spend my early adulthood. And then when the digital download transition was happening, I decided to take those skills and pivot into the sustainability sector. And so that's when I went to York and did some studying and tried to deeply understand what sustainability was about. So that's what I've been doing for this sort of second act of my career. And now I'm working towards using the new skills that I learned at OCAD to practice futures thinking and design thinking skills. So a bit of a meandering road, but TREC has played a very important part of the second and now into the third act. And if you'll allow me to keep riffing, I think I'll just tell you a little bit about that.
Sure.
Because my experience on the TREC board has actually allowed me to learn and gain a lot of experience. And so for these past 15 years or so, I've been focused on working with clients who are fighting climate change. So my clients are looking for low carbon solutions or how to change behaviors or how to educate people about sustainability. And being on the TREC board, when I reflect back, being on the TREC board has actually been one of the most impactful experiences during this portion of my career. So in a traditional sense, it has been kind of like getting an MBA, you know, without the academic fees.
Right, yeah.
I've learned how to read financials, and I've learned how to do strategic planning. And that's been really amazing, because not only is it what I would have learned in a business school, but it's also, it's learning by doing, which I find really
Right.
effective
Hands-on.
for me. Yeah, hands-on, totally. Um, I've also been mentored by some really incredible people on the board. These are creative problem solvers who have the ability to open their minds and innovate solutions that are value aligned, you know, around core principles like community and like sustainability. And that's been really inspiring, and has really provided a lot of value for me and given me a lot of confidence to be able to go out and also play that mentoring role. So it's been a great evolution for me that way. And I think the other piece about TREC that has really been meaningful for me has been that it has shown me the meaning of community in a way that I didn't really understand before. So, and I don't mean simply a geographic community, but one that's based on a community of interest or a community of values. You know, TREC is a co-op, and the idea behind a co-op is that it's democratic. So each member has one vote, and no matter how many shares you have. And so that idea of having a voice at the table has become increasingly important, not just to me, but I think to the world.
Yeah.
And with digital interconnectivity increasing and a whole new generation of digital natives, this idea of community has expanded. And that confluence of connectivity, it can be a very powerful force for change and force for good. And so community matters, and being part of TREC really solidified that for me.
That's amazing.
A lot of words.
No, that's great. But we want to learn about what you're doing and what's exciting you about being on the board. So I guess what I really want to know is what's exciting you most right now. What are you working on as a team, and you know, what makes you want to be part of the board and stay involved?
Yeah, well, so there's several trends that are happening right now that I think are really exciting for Tapestry. So speaking specifically around Tapestry Community Capital and their value proposition of bringing together communities around iconic projects that matter to them, and then leveraging that community to be able to fund those projects. So one of the trends that's really supporting that kind of approach right now is this move towards impact investing. And so impact investing, of course, means that investors want to see more value out of where they put their money than just economic returns. What are the projects or the investments doing for society? What are they doing to heal our planet? And there's a real growth in that, and a growth in the demand for transparency around those types of values. So people who want to support companies and organizations that are creating social value, doing ecological good, organizations with purpose and positive solutions, there's a real focus on that right now. And that sort of holistic and caring approach is a great fit for the types of projects that Tapestry works with, because those projects literally do that. They use community finance and community bonds from the community to support meaningful projects for their community. So I really feel that's what's most exciting right now for Tapestry, is that they're on a trajectory that it was always valuable and always mattered, but now there's a lot more attention being brought to that sector. And of course, now that we've actually got some projects under our wings as well, Tapestry's been around for a few years. It's gone through that startup phase. It has the processes in place. It has the experience. It has an amazing team of people. And so excited to be part of that journey. And I think really the only other thing about Tapestry, there's that wave of activity and that preparedness, but also that Tapestry has sort of outgrown the Toronto-based roots of the founding organization, and even beyond Ontario, and is now operating nationally. And that just opens up all sorts of opportunities for these communities across the country. So it's a really great time to be part of Tapestry, and a really great time to join the team. So I'm super juiced about all of that.
So cool. So as we know, we're currently seeking some new board members to join. And I guess, what do you see as being some really important skills to bring to the team and to the table, and what would you hope to see?
So I know that the board and senior management have done a gap analysis on what kind of skills the board needs. And I did not look at that before this call. So I can't address the skills gap, but where I'd like to actually go with this question is a little different. Instead of looking at what skills does the team need, I really believe that the team needs new voices and perspectives. And where that's coming from is that, you know, this pandemic that we're collectively living through has really illuminated the need for new voices at the table and the need for more inclusive conversations and approaches in order to come up with resilient solutions that don't have these unintended consequences. So the board is actually in the midst of a strategic planning cycle, and they've been using foresight as a way to unearth ideas about the future and better prepare for change and opportunity. And that process needs diverse perspectives in order to really flourish. So rather than thinking about the skills that are needed, which I will leave to other more organized people.
And we'll share the posting as well so that those are all outlined.
For sure. And I feel confident that that's taken care of, but I'm interested in really hearing and bringing diverse experiences and voices and perspectives to the team. And I think with the new advances in the use of technology and the new practices that we've all become so familiar with now, or those of us that are, you know, privileged enough to have access to connectivity, participants can come from all across the country too, which is really exciting. So we can really diversify the voices. So I think that is, from a board perspective, that's what I personally am really hoping. And I know intentionally that the board is doing that as well, looking to diversify the voices. And I think that's going to be really useful as we go through this future planning process.
Definitely. So I guess the last thing that I wanted to ask was if you maybe have any advice to those that are interested in taking on this role.
I do. And it's not specific to TREC and Tapestry.
Okay.
It's advice I give to anyone that's thinking about taking on a volunteer board position or a volunteer community position. And that it's really important to look at opportunities that build on the skills that you want to learn or practice and that align with your values. And that the commitment that you make is in a direction that you truly want to explore. Because as much as I've outlined the benefits of being on the TREC board and how gratifying and valuable that's been, it's been a lot of work and a lot of effort. And so it's really important that there's alignment in your vision for yourself. It doesn't have to be where you're working or what you're working in now, but definitely it needs to have the values and the intent that's important to you. And I would say that for any organization or anyone that's looking at this type of role. And then make sure that you have the bandwidth for a multi-year commitment. Like most boards are looking for multiple years. And again, I just think if you're going to get the most out of the opportunity and you're going to give the most out of the opportunity in a reciprocal relationship, that those are the conditions that I think are most important to consider.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Rebecca. That's been a great help and really interesting to learn more about your role.
It's been my pleasure to share my morning coffee with you, Steph. And I'll look forward to, I invite anyone that's interested in finding out more to check out the Tapestry website and check in with the Tapestry team. It's an incredible dynamic group, and we're really looking forward to hearing from people that are interested. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Take care.